Hi, I'm going to show you now exactly what you would say and do at the DMV with an examiner in the vehicle for your air brake test. This is going to be a great example of exactly what you should be doing while taking your exam, again, with the examiner in the vehicle. So pay attention to the wording especially. I'm going to start out by doing the first part of my air brake test is my low air warning indicator. I'm going to press my brake pedal several times and watch as my needles go down. My needles should be in the range between 55 and 75 psi, and I should hear an audio or visual indicator, and that would be a good test if that happens. I'm going to get started. Looks like my primary and my secondary gave me a visual and audio indicator at about 65 psi on the primary, 65 psi on the secondary. This is a good test because it was within range between 55 and 75 psi. I'm going to continue on. The second part of the test I'm going to do is my governor cut out. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to press my accelerator, watch as my needles rise. When my needles stop rising, that'll be my governor cutout. This should happen no more than 140 psi. Needles have stopped rising. The primary is about 125 psi. My secondary is also at 125 psi. This is a good test because it did not go more than 140 psi before cutting out. The next part of my test is my governor cut-in. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to press on my brake pedal, watch as my needles come to a stop. At whatever point those needles come to a stop, I'm going to give you that reading. Then I'm going to do my accelerator between 10 and 15 seconds. I'm hoping that my needles begin to rise, because if so, that'll be my governor cut-in. If it doesn't, then I'll just repeat that point, and at whatever landing and then the needle rising happens, that would be my cut-in. So let's get started. After pressing the brake pedal the first time, my needles have landed at about 112 psi primary, 112 psi secondary. I'm going to do the accelerator. A few seconds have passed, but my needles did not start to move up. So I'm going to repeat the process, and I'm going to give you a new landing point. I'm going to step on my brake pedal one more time. This time my needles have landed at about 108 psi primary, 108 psi secondary. Now I'm going to do my accelerator. I can see right away that my needles are moving. Therefore, my cut-in was 108 primary, 108 secondary, which was the last landing that the needles were before they started rising. This was a great test and passing because it did not go below 100 psi before cutting in. The next part of my test that I'm going to do is what I call the applied 460 test. Basically, I'm going to shut off the engine, press my brake pedal, engage into first gear. I'm going to release my parking brake and release my trailer brake. I'm going to wait for my needles to settle. I'll give you that reading. Then I'm going to set a timer of about 1 minute. After that minute is passed, I'm going to give you the reading of my needles. And what we're hoping is that my pressure did not drop more than 4 psi in that 1 minute. I'm going to get started. Turning off my engine. Setting my needle so that I can see them. I'm going to go ahead and press on my brake pedal now. I'm not going to release my brake pedal, but I'm going to put it into first gear. I will release my trailer brake as well as release my parking brake. Now I'm just going to wait for my gauges to settle. It appears that my needles have settled at about 98 psi for my primary, 97 psi for my secondary. I may continue because I am at least 85 psi before I was able to do this test successfully all the way through. Since it's above 85 psi, I'm going to continue. I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute. About 30 seconds has passed so far. My timer is up as 1 minute has passed. My primary looks like it was holding at about 95 psi. My secondary looks also at about 95 psi. This is successful because it did not drop more than 4 psi across that 1 minute time. This is passing. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to test my parking trailer service brake. But before I do that, I'd like to put some air in the system at a little over 100 psi. So I'm going to start up my vehicle and I'm going to charge the system just for a little bit. Doing my accelerator helps to speed up the process. 110 psi is good enough, so I'm going to continue with my test. Now I'm going to check my parking brake. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to apply my parking brake and release my trailer brake. I'm going to have it in first gear. I'm going to see if the vehicle is going to pull forward as I release the clutch or if it's going to hold. I'm going to start. Applied my parking brake. Release my trailer brake. First gear. Now I'm going to release the clutch to see what it does. I can tell by that surging sound of the engine that the brakes are holding. So this is a passing test. Now I'm going to test my trailer brake. I'm basically going to, once again, have it in gear, release the clutch slowly, but this time I will release my parking brake and engage my trailer brake. I'm going to release the clutch to see what will happen. I can tell by the engine surge that my trailer brake is also holding. This is a passing test. The next one that I'm going to do is my service brake. I already have it in first gear, so I'm going to leave it there. But this time, I'm going to release my parking and also my trailer brake. I'm going to pull forward about 5 feet, and without my hands on the steering wheel, I'm going to apply my service brake. I'm going to look to see if the steering wheel pulls to left or right. As I apply my service brake, my steering wheel did not pull left or right. This is a good test. The last part of my air brake test is going to be my spring brake test. I already have my parking brake released. I have my trailer brake released. I already have it in first gear to hold the vehicle steady. So now I'm going to turn off the ignition. And I'm going to set my gauges so that I can see them. The way I'm going to do this is I'm basically going to press my brake pedal several times. As the air is leaving the system, I'm going to watch and hope that my spring brakes engage somewhere between 20 and 45 psi. Let's get started. Looks like my primary is at 40 psi and my secondary is also at 40 psi when my spring brakes engaged. This is a passing test because it was within range between 20 and 45 psi. This concludes my air brake test from start to finish. Thank you.